Most people think growing food means owning a backyard, raised beds, and enough land to spread everything out. They picture wooden garden boxes, irrigation systems, rows of vegetables, and weekends spent digging in the soil. So if all they have is a few pots on a balcony, a porch, or a small patio, they assume it's not worth trying. They think a couple of containers can only grow decorative plants, or maybe a few herbs. But that's where most people are completely wrong, because some of the most productive crops don't need garden beds at all. They thrive in ordinary pots. In fact, some vegetables grow so aggressively in containers that one single pot can produce enough food to keep harvesting for weeks. And once you discover which crops truly perform in containers, you stop seeing pots as decoration. You start seeing them as growing systems. Today, we're counting down 15 crops that grow like crazy in pots. Some grow so fast that you'll harvest in less than a month. Others keep feeding you for months from the same plant. And number 6 may produce more food than many backyard gardens, while number 1 gives you 2 edible harvests from the same container. Let's begin. Top 15. Radishes are one of the best crops to begin with because they reward you fast. Many people give up on gardening because they plant something and wait too long for results. Radishes solve that problem immediately. In many cases, they can be ready in under 30 days. That means one container can produce several harvest cycles in a single season. Another reason radishes work so well in pots is their compact size. Their roots don't need huge depth, and many plants can grow together in one medium-sized container. That creates high productivity from a tiny space. Radishes also perform in cooler weather, making them excellent for spring and fall when many summer crops are not growing. And most people only think of the root, but the greens are edible too. Young leaves can be added to salads or cooked. That means one planting can produce more than expected. Radishes are important because they teach something quickly. A simple pot on a balcony can produce food much faster than most people imagine. That changes everything for beginners. Top 14. Green onion. If there's one crop that proves how efficient pots can be, it's green onions. They grow upward, not outward, which means they use vertical space efficiently. One container can hold many plants at once. But what makes them special is how they regrow. Cut the green tops, leave the roots, and many continue producing. That turns one pot into a long-term food source. Another reason they matter is daily usefulness. Green onions go into eggs, soups, noodles, rice dishes, sauces, and salads. They're one of those ingredients you constantly need. And because they grow so easily, they're ideal for people with very little space. Some growers don't even start from seed. They regrow store-bought scraps in containers. That makes them one of the cheapest crops to start. A simple pot by a sunny door can keep producing all season. And because the harvest feels immediate, it reinforces the habit of growing your own food. Small effort, constant return. Top 13. Lettuce. Most people underestimate how productive lettuce can be in pots because they harvest it wrong. They wait until the whole head forms, cut everything, and then start over. But container growers often use a different strategy. Harvest the outer leaves, leave the center, and the plant continues growing. This cut-and-come-again method transforms one container into weeks of harvest. Another reason lettuce thrives in pots is density. Several plants can grow together in one wide planter, turning a single container into a reliable salad source. Lettuce also grows quickly enough to keep people interested. Within a short time, the pot starts producing food you can use immediately. And because fresh lettuce loses quality quickly after harvest, homegrown leaves often taste dramatically better than store versions. The ability to move pots also matters. In spring, full sun. In summer, partial shade. That flexibility increases success. A simple container of lettuce can quietly become one of the most productive parts of a small garden. Top 12. Beets are one of the smartest crops for containers because they give you 2 edible harvests from the same planting. Most people think of the root, but the greens are also edible. That means while the beet root develops underground, the leaves are already producing food above. This doubles the value of one container. Another advantage is controlled soil. Beets often grow better in pots because loose potting mix allows roots to develop evenly. In hard garden soil, roots can become misshapen. In containers, the environment is easier to manage. Several beets can grow in one pot, creating surprising productivity from a small area. They also handle cooler temperatures well, making them useful before summer crops take over. And once harvested, beet roots store well. That means the container doesn't just produce fresh food, it produces food that lasts. Beets show that one pot can support both immediate harvest and stored harvest. That's a big advantage for anyone trying to grow seriously in small spaces. Top 11. Bush bean. Bush beans are one of the most useful crops for container growing because they stay compact while producing repeatedly. Unlike pole beans, they don't require tall trellises, making them easier for balconies and patios. But despite their small size, they can yield heavily. As long as you keep harvesting, they keep making more pods. That repeated cycle turns one pod into a surprisingly dependable food source. Another reason bush beans stand out is nutrition. They add protein and fiber, making them more filling than many greens. That matters if you're trying to grow food with real value. Bush beans also improve soil by fixing nitrogen, which helps future crops if you reuse the container soil. They mature relatively quickly and require little complexity. A row of pots filled with bush beans can produce enough food to change how people think about container gardening. It stops feeling decorative. It starts feeling practical. Top 10. Kale. Kale is one of the most dependable crops you can grow in pots because it turns a single plant into a long-term food source. Unlike vegetables that are harvested once and removed, kale keeps producing. You harvest the outer leaves and leave the center growing. The plant responds by making more leaves. That means one container can feed you for months instead of one meal. Another reason kale performs so well in pots is its upright growth. It uses vertical space efficiently, making it ideal for balconies or patios, where every inch matters. Kale also handles cool weather better than most crops. In fact, many gardeners say frost improves the flavor, making the leaves sweeter. While other plants fade, kale keeps producing. Nutritionally, it's also one of the most valuable greens you can grow. Rich in vitamins, minerals, and fiber, it adds real nutritional weight to a container garden. And because it continues growing through changing seasons, it becomes one of the most stable crops in the system. A single pot of kale may look simple at first, but over time, it becomes one of the most useful food producers you own. Top 9. Swiss chard. Swiss chard is often overlooked, but in containers, it can outperform many more popular vegetables. It works similarly to kale. You harvest the outer leaves while the center keeps growing. But what makes Swiss chard especially valuable is heat tolerance. Many greens struggle when summer temperatures rise. Swiss chard often keeps going. That makes it one of the best options for warm patios and sunny balconies. Another advantage is leaf size. The leaves become large and substantial, which means one harvest feels significant. A single pot can supply repeated cuttings for weeks or months. The colorful stems, red, yellow, orange, also make the plant attractive. That matters because many people want productive spaces that still look beautiful. Swiss chard offers both. And because the stems are edible too, very little is wasted. It's one of those crops that quietly produces without drawing much attention. But over time, it often becomes one of the highest yielding containers in the garden. Top 8. Carrots may seem like something that belongs in the ground, but they often grow beautifully in containers. In fact, many gardeners get better results in pots because the soil is easier to control. Carrots need loose, deep, well-drained soil. In backyard gardens, hard patches of rocks can cause roots to twist or split. But in a container, you create the ideal growing medium from the start. Another reason carrots work so well is density. A medium-sized pot can hold many carrot plants. That means dozens of roots from one container. And because they store well, they remain useful long after harvest. Carrots are also incredibly versatile in the kitchen. Soups, roasting, salads, juices, snacks. That makes them practical, not just interesting. For small space growers, carrots prove that even classic root crops can thrive without garden beds. One pot of carrots changes how people think about what's possible in containers. Top 7. Cucumber. This is where container gardening starts surprising people. Cucumbers naturally want to climb, and when you give them support, one pot can produce an incredible amount of food. Instead of spreading across the ground, the vine grows upward. That means the same footprint produces far more. Another reason cucumbers are so powerful is continuous harvest. Once the plant starts producing, it often keeps making fruit for weeks. The more frequently you harvest, the more it tends to produce. Fresh cucumbers are also one of the most satisfying summer crops. Cool, crisp, immediate. And because the fruit hangs from a trellis, it often stays cleaner and healthier than ground-grown vines. A single container near a fence, railing, or balcony support can become a vertical food wall. It's one of the clearest examples that small spaces can produce far more than expected. Top 6. Potato. This is often the crop that completely changes someone's perspective on container gardening. Potatoes in pots feel almost hidden. You plant a few seed potatoes, add soil as the stems grow, and then wait. For weeks, there's nothing dramatic to see. But underground, the real harvest is building. Then harvest day arrives. You empty the container, and suddenly potatoes spill out everywhere. That reveal makes a huge impression. It transforms a pot into something much bigger than a container. It becomes a hidden food reserve. Another reason potatoes are so effective is storage. Unlike delicate greens, potatoes can last for months. That means the container creates food for now and food for later. They're also calorie dense, which makes them feel substantial. One pot of potatoes may not feed a household all year, but it proves that even a single container can produce serious food. Once people see that first harvest, they often never look at empty pots the same way again. Top 5. Pepper. Peppers are one of the best container crops because they combine compact growth with long-term production. They don't need much space, yet they can keep producing fruit for months. That makes them ideal for patios, balconies, and small porches where every container matters. Another reason peppers thrive in pots is warmth. Containers heat up faster than the ground, and peppers love warm roots. That often leads to stronger growth and better yields. One healthy plant can produce dozens of fruits over the season, especially when regularly harvested. Bell peppers, jalapenos, banana peppers, cayenne. Many varieties perform extremely well in containers. Another advantage is versatility. You can eat them fresh, roast them, freeze them, dry them, or make sauces. That means every harvest can be used in multiple ways. And visually, peppers make containers look productive. Seeing bright red, yellow, and green fruit hanging from one plant makes the harvest feel abundant. Peppers prove that one simple pot can quietly become one of the most valuable parts of a small garden. Top 4. Eggplant. Eggplant may not be the first crop people think of for containers, but it often performs remarkably well. It loves heat and containers naturally warm up in the sun, creating ideal conditions. Compact varieties especially thrive in pots. One healthy plant can produce repeated harvests throughout the warm season. Another reason eggplant works so well is space efficiency. It grows upward and remains manageable, making it suitable even for tight patios. And because eggplants are often expensive in stores, especially specialty varieties, harvesting them at home feels surprisingly valuable. The fruits themselves are large enough that each harvest feels meaningful. One or two fruits can become a full meal. That changes how productive a single container feels. Eggplant also adds visual appeal. Glossy purple fruit hanging from a container, grown plant looks dramatic and instantly signals abundance. It proves that small space gardening is capable of producing serious crops, not just herbs and greens. Top 3. Cherry tomato. Cherry tomatoes may be one of the most productive container crops in the world. Give one plant a pot, a cage, and sunlight, and it can become a tower of fruit. Unlike larger tomatoes that often produce in waves, cherry tomatoes can continue for months. One plant may yield dozens or even hundreds of fruits over a season. That makes them incredibly efficient. Another reason they perform so well is vertical growth. The plant climbs upward, using height instead of spreading across valuable ground. For balconies or patios, that's ideal. Fresh flavor is another advantage. Homegrown cherry tomatoes are usually sweeter and richer than store-bought versions. Once people taste the difference, many stop buying them entirely. And visually, nothing says productivity like a plant loaded with clusters of red fruit. A few pots can suddenly transform a tiny patio into a surprisingly productive food source. Cherry tomatoes show how one container can outperform expectations over and over again. Top 2. Zucchini. Zucchini has a reputation for overwhelming gardeners, and that reputation is deserved. Even in containers, it can produce heavily. Compact bush varieties are best for pots because they stay manageable while still generating large harvests. Another reason zucchini stands out is fruit size. Unlike small greens, each harvest feels substantial. One zucchini can become a meal, side dish, or preserved food. That makes one pot feel much more productive. The plant also grows quickly. Leaves expand fast, flowers appear, and fruit often seems to appear overnight. That dramatic growth keeps viewers interested and keeps gardeners motivated. One healthy plant can produce continuously for much of the season, especially if harvested while fruits are young. A single pot of zucchini proves something powerful. Container gardening is not limited to tiny harvests. It can produce food that fills an entire kitchen counter. Top 1. Sweet potato. This crop changes the entire concept of container growing because it gives you two edible harvests from one plant. The roots grow underground, but the leaves can also be harvested as greens. That means one pot provides food during the growing season and again at harvest time. Few crops offer that kind of efficiency. Another reason sweet potatoes dominate containers is heat tolerance. They thrive in hot conditions, and containers create warm soil that encourages vigorous growth. As the vines spread, the plant may not look impressive at first, but beneath the soil, tubers are forming the entire time. Then harvest day arrives, and emptying the container reveals a hidden food reserve. Sweet potatoes also store well, making them practical beyond the day they're harvested. They provide calories, greens, and long-term storage from a single planting. That makes them one of the smartest container crops possible. One pot becomes greens, roots, stored food, a complete small space system. What these 15 crops reveal is simple. Most people think growing food is about having more land, but land is not the real limitation. The real limitation is understanding how much a small space can produce when every container is used well. A pot may look ordinary. Most people see something decorative, but the right grower sees productive ground. One pot can grow salad, another can produce roots, another becomes a vertical vine, another hides food underground. And once one container becomes 5, and 5 become 10, a small patio or balcony stops feeling limited. It starts feeling capable. That's the shift. Once you stop thinking of containers as small and start thinking of them as systems, even the smallest place you live begins producing far more than most people ever thought possible. If this guide changed the way you look at the potential of a simple balcony pot, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the agricultural secrets that have been hidden in plain sight. Start growing your future today. The next harvest of knowledge will be ready for you very soon.